On July 9th, 1958, at 10:15 p.m. local time, it was still daylight when an earthquake struck the Lituya Bay area. The weather was clear and the tide was low, with the water level about 1.5 meters below normal. Bill and Vivian Swanson were fishing on their boat, anchored in Anchorage Cove on the western side of Lituya Bay.
After the first jolt, I fell out of my bunk and looked toward the head of the bay, where the noise was coming from. Mountains were shaking terribly, and rocks and snow were crashing down. What impressed me most was the glacier, the Northern Glacier, the one they call the Lituya Glacier. I know that normally you can't see that glacier from where I was anchored. People shake their heads when I tell them I saw it that night. I can't help it if they don't believe me. I know the glacier isn't visible from Anchorage Cove, but I also know that I saw it that night. The glacier rose into the air and moved forward, becoming visible. It must have risen several hundred feet. I'm not saying it was just hanging in the air, it was jumping and shaking like crazy. Large chunks of ice were breaking off and falling into the water. Even though it was 6 miles away, those chunks still looked huge. They were breaking off the glacier as if a dump truck were dumping a load of rocks. This went on for a while. It's hard to say how long, and then suddenly the glacier disappeared from view, and a huge wall of water rose in its place. The wave immediately began moving toward us, and I no longer had time to watch what was happening.
Lituya Bay is a narrow and remote fjord, located along the Fairweather Fault in the northeastern part of the Gulf of Alaska, in one of the most tectonically active regions of North America. It has a distinctive T-shaped structure, stretching approximately 14 kilometers in length and up to 3 kilometers in width. Despite its relatively small size, it is extremely deep, reaching depths of around 220 meters in its central basin. In contrast, its entrance is unusually narrow and shallow, with a depth of only about 10 meters, creating a restricted connection to the open ocean. This unique geography plays a critical role in how energy moves through the bay. The steep underwater slopes and confined shape make it capable of amplifying waves and trapping enormous amounts of force inside the fjord. 2 large glaciers feed directly into Lituya Bay. Each of them extends nearly 19 kilometers inland and can reach widths of up to 1.6 kilometers. These massive ice formations constantly shape the landscape, slowly carving the surrounding mountains and feeding ice into the water below. But what truly sets Lituya Bay apart is not just its geography. It is its history of extreme natural events. Long before the catastrophic events of 1958, the bay had already shown signs of extraordinary power. Historical records and geological evidence suggest that waves exceeding 50 meters in height had occurred here multiple times. In 1854, 1899, and 1936. This means that even before the most famous event, Lituya Bay was already a place where nature demonstrated its ability to generate extreme and destructive forces. It was not a calm or ordinary fjord. It was a confined natural system capable of amplifying energy on a massive scale. A place where mountains, glaciers, and ocean collide in a constantly shifting balance. Lituya Bay is a narrow yet incredibly powerful bay located in southeastern Alaska. It stretches for about 14 kilometers in length and up to 3 kilometers in width. Despite its relatively small size, this bay hides a complex and potentially dangerous natural system. At the center of the bay lies a small island known as Cenotaph Island, adding to the unique structure of the landscape. Toward the open Pacific Ocean, Lituya Bay transitions into Anchorage Cove, but the passage leading out is extremely narrow, only about half a kilometer wide. This narrow outlet acts like a bottleneck, restricting the natural flow of water. The bay is partially separated from the ocean by a spit known as Lagaussi Spit, and the tidal currents here can reach speeds of up to 5 knots, raising the water level by several meters. All of these factors make Lituya Bay a place where water energy can build up and intensify with tremendous force. But the story of this bay began long before modern observations. It was first explored in 1786 by the French navigator Jean-François de Gallo. Comte de la Pérouse, one of the most prominent explorers of his time, who led a major round-the-world expedition. However, La Pérouse's fate was tragic. During his voyage, he and his entire crew disappeared near Vanikoro Island in the Pacific Ocean. For many years, their fate remained a mystery until it was later confirmed that the expedition had been lost. Despite this, La Pérouse left a lasting legacy in the world of exploration. Many geographical locations were named in his honor, including the La Pérouse Strait, as well as numerous capes, islands, and other landmarks. It was explorers like him who first brought attention to remote and powerful places like Lituya Bay, a location that centuries later would become the site of one of the most extraordinary natural disasters in recorded history. On July 9, 1958, a powerful earthquake struck the area near Lituya Bay, with a magnitude estimated between 7.9 and 8.3 on the Richter scale. Its epicenter was located along the Fairweather Range, about 21 kilometers southeast of the bay. It was the strongest earthquake in this region in more than 50 years. The seismic shock triggered catastrophic changes in the surrounding landscape. Near the Gilbert Glacier, a massive slope failure occurred as enormous volumes of rock ice and snow broke loose and rushed downward. More than 30 million cubic meters of debris collapsed into the bay within seconds. The impact was so powerful that it violently displaced the water, forcing it upward and creating a wave of unimaginable force. This was not a typical tsunami, it was a megatsunami, caused by the sudden displacement of an enormous volume of water. The giant wave surged up the steep walls of the bay, sweeping everything in its path. It reached a height of approximately 524 meters higher than most skyscrapers in the world. Entire mountainsides were stripped bare. Forests were completely erased, leaving behind a visible scar of destruction that can still be seen today. All of this happened in just a matter of minutes. Despite the remote location, lives were lost. 5 people died in the disaster, 3 on Contact Island, and 2 more were swept away by the wave within the bay. Even in Yakutat, the nearest permanent settlement to the epicenter, the effects were felt. Bridges, docks, and oil infrastructure were damaged. After the disaster, scientists sought to understand how such an extraordinary wave could have formed. One hypothesis involved a subglacial lake located northwest of a bend in the Lituya Glacier. After the earthquake, the water level in this lake dropped by about 30 meters. It was suggested that a large volume of water may have rushed into the bay through a tunnel beneath the glacier, amplifying the wave. However, further studies indicated that this was likely not the primary cause. The main factor was the sudden collapse of a massive volume of rock and ice into the confined space of the narrow bay. It was the combination of a powerful earthquake, unique geography, and a massive landslide that created the perfect conditions for the largest wave ever recorded in history. This was not just a natural event. It was a moment when the forces of earth, mountains, and water combined and were released with devastating power. Today, Lituya Bay is quiet again. The water is calm, the mountains stand still, and the forest has begun to grow back. To most people, it looks like nothing ever happened. But the scars are still there. High on the mountainsides, a silent line marks the unimaginable height the water once reached. A reminder of a force few have ever witnessed. Because beneath this peaceful landscape, the earth is still moving, the fault lines are still active, the mountains are still unstable, and the balance that was once broken can break again. What happened here in 1958 was not just a rare event. It was a warning, a glimpse of what nature is capable of when everything aligns. And somewhere in another hidden place like this, the same conditions may already be forming, waiting, building, silent, until one day, without warning, the water will rise again,